Hi everyone, Barry Carter here. I am once again joined by Dara O'Kearney. We have been accused of being GTO wizard shills, so we wanted to put that to bed right away by going through a solver technology that we're a big fan of. That isn't GTO wizard, DTO. I don't know about you, Dara, but I think what DTO does particularly well is kind of gamify the whole process of learning GTO. Would that be its biggest strength to you?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say interesting that our response to accused of being GTO wizard shills is to start shilling DTO. Incidentally, if you do want to sign up to DTO, chip race is the code that gets you the discount. But yeah, DTO was an absolute game changer, I think. You know, if you look at the way people have learned poker down the years, when we started, we just kind of read a few really bad books and talked and played, and then the videos were kind of the first big shift where you had play and explain videos by top players, and then the solvers were the next shift, and then I think DTO was an absolute game changer. What it essentially did is it took solves and turned it into a gamified approach, which is the way a lot of people like to learn. And it's been very, very copied since we have other tools like GTO Trainer. PO has its own training thing where you can put your own solves in, and essentially it will then quiz you on the spots, and GTO Wizard as well. But DTO is the original, and still probably the best in terms of just a training. Every time you are, if you want to get better at poker, there's two things you have to do. You have to study, but you also have to train. And you know, the solvers are where you study. You look at solutions and you try to figure out why they are the way they are and what lessons you can take them from. But that's not enough in itself. You have to also train to make sure that you've taken those lessons on board and you can actually replicate them. So this is almost like DTO is almost like a flight simulator for playing.
Mm. And still the best optimized for mobile too, right? It's like, it's so easy to just wait in a bus stop, get the phone out and play 20 hands on DTO and get something beneficial from that time, I would say.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, you can play it on your phone, on your laptop or desktop, on your iPad. So when you're on the move, when you're stuck in an airport and there's nothing much else to do, it's a great way to get in some study time as well.
So what I thought we'd do today is the most common spot that we use in GTO Poker Simplified is 40 big blinds under the gun versus big blind single rated pot. So I just thought, because I haven't actually played a great deal of poker during the book, I've only just really started to do it now. I kind of thought it'd be fun to see if any of the lessons have rubbed off on me. Let's have a look. Low jack versus big blind. That's near enough. And there we go. So this is yeah, low jack opens. Always check out the ranges first, right? We decent tight linear range, all the good hands, most of the pocket pairs, all the suited aces. Wide defense from the big blind. All we're missing really are the really, really good pocket pairs and the best aces. So this is a capped range. And I guess I'll
yeah, just before you move on from the ranges, I would say, like, focus on which parts of the range are more overrepresented or underrepresented in certain players. You can see, for example, the big blind has none of the big pairs. And that's kind of a crucial thing. On a board like Ace King 9, the big blind has no sets, and doesn't even have Ace King either. So you can spot straight away a certain type of board is going to be very, very good for the other. It's more difficult to think of boards that are better for the big blind because their range is a lot wider. But if you look at how many suited hands they have compared to unsuited, they're much more skewed towards suited hands. So on monotone and flush draw boards, they're going to play very differently because the big blind will have a lot, and particularly in spots where you get past a flop, where a lot of the continuing range will be flush draws, compared to the opener. They won't have as many flush draws in their range, and then when the flush gets there on the turn, that's going to be a spot where suddenly the range advantage can shift to the big blind.
And low flops as well are going to be good for the big blind. Like a 4, 5, 6 flop is going to be really, really good for the big blind, because not only do they have straights, but they have like 2 pairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's just see how I'm doing on this as a leaderboard. Oh, I'm 14th in the lead. Oh no, it's just disappeared. I'm now ranked nothing. I don't know how that's happened. I broke DTO. Okay. Let's get rid of that and just let's play some spots. So I'm just going to jump into some spots, and when I mess a hand up, I'll let Dara explain to me why I messed up. Right. So we're the opener in this spot. Jack 7, 6, 2 spades. This is a funny one, because this strikes me as a board that doesn't favor either person particularly. I mean, we've both got straight draws, we've both got flush draws, both got a decent amount of Jack X. The big blind, I probably got the better Jack X, but the big blind has got the better more 6X, 7X. So I'm going to bet. I think this is a good spot for a big bet. This is a dynamic flop. It changes quite easily, so we want to get the money in now. And I think Ace-6 suited is a pretty good hand for that, because we've got bottom pair. We can hit 2 pair or a trips on the turn, or we can get a runner flush draw. So I think this is a good spot for a big bet. Right, that's a good card for the big blind. I now am in a situation where I think betting is probably a mistake, because I'm only going to get called by better, and I've got some showdown value if they've got. Oh, I could charge a flush draw there. No, I'm going to go with the first instinct and check back now. And right, that's a pretty good card for me. I've probably got more Jack X, but I would have the X on turn probably. I've got good showdown value. I think this is a check back. There we go. Any commentary on that one, Dara?
Yeah, that's really well identified. I would say you said that the turn card was good for the big blind. I mean, I think it was a kind of a neutral card. I don't think any player is going to really improve too much on that. I guess they have 8-5, which gets there as a straight, but that's just a pretty small part of their range. It felt more bricky than, say, a club or a card higher than a 7. But yeah, overall, I thought your thought processes were really good there, and you were thinking about what your range wanted to do rather than your hand.
All right, let's jump straight.
There are very, very few flops in which the big blind is going to have a range advantage. You're going to have to kind of struggle to find a reason why the big blind. Usually, it comes down to there are straights possible on the board, and it's a low card board. So the big blind has way more straights.
Right, so we jump in with a very similar situation to the last hand, actually. The low cards probably favor the big blind, but the queen favors us a tiny little bit more. We've got the stronger range pre-flop. We've got some runner straight and runner flush possibilities. So I definitely like betting here, and I would say this is a good spot for a small bet, because with 10-8, we don't really care. We don't mind fold into a raise with a hand like 10-8, because it's not much. So I'm going to go small bet, and that only gets good, which means it wasn't the. So if we go into the evaluation, it looks like big bet was the more favored line, probably because this is actually quite a dynamic board again, right, Dara?
It is quite dynamic. Yeah, there's not too much difference in terms of the queen and the jack. And the last, and there are a lot of gut shots on this board, and well, 6-4 and 8-6 are open ended. 8-9, 8-4, 6-3, 4-3 are all gut shots as well. So there's actually quite a lot of draws as well. But yeah, I mean, there's no EV loss. So I mean, it's nice to try and absolutely play the best, but nevertheless, I mean, the fact is, if you're playing perfect GTO, those percentages tell you that 34% of the time you should actually take the action that you took, based on a randomize, and you can see that the EV is exactly the same. So I never worry too much about those spots, because there's zero EV loss to your thing. What you're really looking or hoping to find in DTO are spots where you think something is true, something is the best line, and it turns out it actually loses EV. And that's the spot where you learn. your reasons for betting small were fine as well. This is a board where it wants to mix big bets and small bets, but and it mostly prefers the bigger bet, but the small bet's fine too.
Good. I always actually kick myself if I don't get the higher frequency line, but that's probably a fishy thing in GTO world to think. Okay, king, similar flop again. There's kind of doesn't necessarily favor either of us more than the other. Still a somewhat dynamic board. This time we've got a good hand. I think we want to charge with our king queen. Don't want to let an ace in cheaply. You want to get value from it. So I think this is a big bet spot. And I don't think there's much to say about that one, Dara. You got anything to add?
No, this is actually a more dynamic board because Jack 10, which is
Jack 10, yeah,
which is a huge part of it, is open ended, and there's King Jack, King 10, 8 7, 8 6, 6 7 are all gut shots as well. So anytime your opponent has lots of those types of draws, you typically want to go on the bigger side, so that they either have to surrender a lot of equity by folding, or if they call with all their gut shots, for example, then they're putting a lot of money into the pot just to try and hit a gut shot.
Yeah, cool. Right, with the big blind this time around. So that was literally, I think we've literally got the flop.
The same flop, isn't it?
We had last time. Right, I mean, based on that, I know our villain is going to bet a lot of the time here. Oh, this almost feels like a spot that this almost feels like a check raise. Let me just. There's a runner on a straight there possible. There's a runner on a flush possible, and we can hit trips or two pair. I'm just for the benefit of the viewer when I get this wrong, and we can learn an important lesson about this.
He checked behind.
Oh, he checked behind. Okay, right. So he's weakened his range a little bit. I would say he.
I wouldn't say he's weakened his range. He's condensed his range.
Don't ghost me in real time, Dara. That's cheating. So yeah, I mean, I think we can eliminate a lot of sort of good top pair type hands. I think this person is going to have like 9x, 5x, a pair in between, a queen and a 5 a lot of the time, ace high a lot of the time. For that reason, I think betting would only get. I think we're probably going to get called by better a lot of the time. I think I'm going to try and cheaply hit the straight on the river. So we've got the up and down straight draw. We can hit trips. I'm not too sure whether hitting a jack is going to be good for me or not, but I don't think I can fold yet. And then I think I'm just going to give up. Analysis, Dara?
Yeah, really good. Is it possible to go to the flop and look at their betting range on the flop?
Yep. So this is their checking range. So, oh no, that's my checking range. Apologies. DTO. Yeah. So, wow, the checking range is really small. Actually, look at that.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's
the checking range. So it's essentially a range bet, really.
Yeah,
it's the tiniest part of the range that wasn't.
Yeah, but if you look at what the checks are, and we'll squint to see what they are.
Yeah, it's like ace jack, ace 10,
ace jack, ace 10.
Jack, 8, 8. There's actually a lot of strong hands in there.
King 5. Yeah, this is what I was saying. Like the guy hasn't really weakened his range. It's just he has certain hands that sort of like they're strong, but they're not super strong, so they hate getting check raised. And that's kind of what he's condensed his range down to. As I said, it's more of a condensed range. He's like there's no super strong hands. There's also no super weak hands because
maybe bluffs.
He just wants to go ahead and bluff those. It's the stuff in the middle, which is kind of like, yeah, this can win at showdown unimproved, but if he check raises me, it's gonna suck. Those are kind of the hands that I think that's probably the most common mistake actually that I see particularly live players make. Where they defend and the flop goes check, check, and then they bet the turn. And I asked them, like, why did you bet the turn? He said, well, he checked behind on the flop, so therefore I thought he had nothing. Like a good player doesn't have nothing in that spot. A good player just typically has a hand they're trying to get to showdown cheaply.
Yeah. Right, next hand. Right, low flop, pretty good for him. From experience, the flush draw doesn't favor either of us particularly more than the other. I'm not too excited about my 10 high flush possibilities, but yeah, this definitely feels like oh, wait on, no, I'm gonna okay. I often bet small in spots like this since we've been working on the book, but this actually feels like a spot for a big bet because I think our tens are vulnerable to overcards as well as better spades. So I'm actually going to bet big this time. Damn, I should have bet small. That's a streak over. Okay, let me just look at this evaluation. Yeah, it's 100% check. So let me just explain my rationale. So I know now from on the book that working on the book that a small bet is favorable on monotone flops because, contrary to what people think, fortunes don't change as often as you'd think on them. But I thought because it was a low flop and I had an overpair, that might change things. What would you say, Dara? What did I do wrong then?
I think you kind of misrepresented your hand. Like your hand has good showdown and it also has a kind of a weak draw. You said you weren't thrilled about your 10 high flush draw. So anytime a hand kind of falls into those two categories, that's not really a reason to bet big because you just fold out worse hands or hands that have very little equity against you. It's just a general rule as well that you bet smaller because the whole point about a monotone board like that is he has all sorts of junk hands in his range, like 9-4 suited, which are complete crap on most boards, and 3/4 of them are on this board, but one of them is now a pile driver. He's flopped a flush. So you said that you didn't think the monotone nature of the board favored either player in particular, but it does kind of favor the big blind because he has, as I said at the start, he has all that suited stuff. So he has way more flopped flushes than you have.
But he's got all the suited hearts. He's got all the suited clubs. You know, he's missing a lot more.
He's missing a lot more, but he's not going to put any money into the pot anyway. So, like the big bet, the small bet, they achieve exactly the same part against that part of the range. They fold out. The complete whiffs. I mean, you could bet one big blind, and he's gonna fold his 9-4 of hearts. But then think about the other range, like when he has a flush already. Like shoveling money into the pot with tens isn't a great idea. If he has a very strong flush draw, if he has the ace of thing, he's going to continue anyway, and all you're kind of doing is putting yourself in a tricky spot on the turn. So it's generally the case that betting frequencies go down, but also sizes go down on monotone flops in these situations, particularly where you're playing against an out of position player who has actually a lot of flushes in their range.
No, I tend to go on complete tilt when I break a streak. So let's see how I do in the future. Right. Okay. So we are the big blind. We've got King 10 suited. Now, I think this is a good spot to lead out. This is the sort of flop that favors us much more than the under the gun opener. We've got 6-7 most of the time. We've got 8-5. We've got 5-4. We've probably got 8-4. We've got all sorts of pair and draw type hands, and our own specific hand can get runner for no it can't. 6-7. Yeah, it can get runner for a straight, runner for a flush, and we're not too.
How does it get runner for a straight?
6-7.
6, 7, 9.
8, 9. 5, 6, 7. Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. Okay, that's good.
Runner. Providing there's an ocean, it can get runner. Okay.
Well, I'm still going to lead out because we this is a good board for us, and we can hit a flush, and we can hit our pair. And fuck me, I told you I was on tilt.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, all right. I'm going to absolutely level myself now, but this is a good spot for an overbet, right? Because he's checked back on a favorable board to us. I've already lost my streak, so I'm just going to no, fuck it, fold. Okay, school me, Dara.
Okay, so on the flop, you did correctly identify that this is a good flop to lead out. Straights are possible. We have all the sets. We have way more 2 pairs as well. Remember, like he's opening almost every pair. And we are 3-betting all the stronger pairs. So on high card boards, we have no sets and he has them all. On low card boards, we have all the sets. Even if he has them all, there's still a higher proportion of our pairs. And we also have the 2 pairs and things. So this is a good board to get, but the question is, like, you don't want to overdo that. You can't. So let's just look at what your leading out range should be.
Oh, well, sorry.
User, yeah. It's actually doing no leading out. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, that's basically down to there is only one very specific straight here possible, 7-6.
Yeah, if it was 4-5-6, I think probably.
Yeah, 4-5-6 is the classic one, because we have 8-4 and 7-8, and whatever the other straight is, 4-3 suited, or 3-2 suited. But here we just have 7-6, and he's opening 7-6 suited anyway. So so our advantage is not as large. And that's why we're not.
In fact, it probably favors him, actually, now that I think about it, because he's got less hands in his range. So 7-6 is a bigger percentage of his range.
That's a very good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. He might actually have more straights as a percentage of his range than we have. So it's one of those things that when you learn a new concept, you have to be careful not to over apply it. You were right that this is the right kind of board, but when you break it down, you find actually we don't have the kind of advantage that we think here. The second point is, I don't think our hand even benefits that much from betting, because our king high has decent showdown, and our backdoor flush draw is going to be strong enough to sort of check call as well. Typically, if you were going to bet hands, now we've seen already that there's no leads here, but it'd be something like 6-2 of spades would make a better lead, because if we can get the guy, the guy will actually fold a lot of better hands than that, whereas he's not going to fold too much better than king 10.
Right. Okay. I'm going to try and get a run of five in a row now, going. Now that my original goal of a streak of at least 10 was right. Okay. Calm blow. I should think about this, Barry. Right. What would our value want to do? Our value would want to bet quite big here. This is a dynamic board. There isn't. There's only one possible straight, which we could have. We've established that. I don't think they'll be leading out here. We have a good-ish card to do that with. We've got a gut shot. We've got a pair. I think this is an okay spot to bet big because of our gut shot. And our value would want to bet big. Interesting card. It's free. So 4-5 gets there. Pocket freeze gets there.
4-5. How does 4-5 get there?
4-2
and 7-4 get there.
4-2 gets there. Okay. Well, it's such a small bet, and are we really just calling for the 7? We can't fold this, can we?
9%.
What? Oh, okay. So it's a raise or a shove, is it? I mean, it's the same. I mean, we block the straight. Fuck me.
Okay, so
what was the biggest error of all the things that I did? I got a flop right.
Well, you got the flop right, yeah. But also, actually, if you look at the flop, you're splitting between check and bet. What you don't want to do here is bet small.
No.
The small bet serves no purpose except to juice the pot up with a hand which is weakish showdown, weakish draw. And typically you either want to turn that into a bluff, which is essentially what you did with your ace-8, or you want to just take your showdown and check behind. So yeah, you play the flop fine. I mean, the turn bet is super interesting, and this is something that, before the solvers, you never saw people leading for 9% of pot on turns.
I'm going to see what the range is with that one. So it's
it's typically just he's kind of like recognizing this is a good card for me. Also remember, because you bet big on the flop, you strengthen his range considerably. So basically the overall range advantage changed. He also got a card which improves a lot of his hands and doesn't really improve you at all. Almost ever. But at the same time, it's kind of a blocker bet. Like, he's incentivized. You can see there's a lot of 9x, 8x gut shots, 7x. Some of that stuff is betting too. They just kind of want to see the river cheap. So and at the same time, like, if he has value, he's not necessarily going to get a big bet call, because, and you're going to check behind a lot as well. So he kind of, like, his value just wants to get some more money into the pot, and then his weakest draws just want to get to see the turn cheap. Now, you have to kind of recognize that he's essentially trying to see the turn for cheap, or the river for cheap rather, and basically play against that. So if you look at your raising range now, you'll see that, well, first of all, your value wants to raise, absolutely, because it doesn't want to let him see the river for cheap, which is what he appears to be doing with this. And then you're picking out some bluffs, and ace-8 makes a decent bluff because it blocks some of his strong hands. It blocks straights, it blocks 9-8, all his ace-x, which is a pair. So it has very useful blockers. So that's being used as a bluff more often than, a hand like ace-5, for example, that has more showdown. So that beats his cheap bluffs, but it's not strong enough to get to really raise for value. So that's just calling behind. And then on the river, remind me what the river was again.
The river was a 10 of hearts.
10 of hearts.
I felt it was a good time to bet, like, carry on with the bet, because we block, we still block a straight. I guess is my
the problem is, like, think about his range on the turn. Like, when he leads out, he has a hand that's either trying to see the river for cheap or is a value hand, and we raise to basically thwart his efforts, his attempt. When he checks the river, like, we actually have decent showdown. We're beating a lot of those random 8x and 7x's that bet the turn. So we can win without betting. At the same time, like, when we bet, is he really going to fold too much stronger hands? So at that point, we just kind of take our showdown.
Right. So I'm going to attempt to get 4 right in a row, and then I think I'll call it a day. Right. Okay. Low cards are good for me. Big cards good for him. Dynamic-ish board. I have a straight draw. Leading out is stupid. So I'll check. And that, I think, is a small enough bet for me to try and hit my straight. Oh, never know what to do in these spots. So I've improved, but, not really against any of his value. I feel like it's just get it showdown as cheaply as possible time. Probably a good card for me. Don't see any merit in trying to turn my hand into a bluff. So again, just trying to get to showdown cheaply. Ooh, right, okay. What do I block? I block ace straight. Okay, I'm going to. There we go. Feedback.
Okay, so so what happened here? So on the flop we checked, which is perfectly. We wouldn't have any leads on this board.
Yep.
On the turn,
Check.
We checked, and it mostly wants to bet. Again, like, when he checks the flop, remember the earlier hand where I said he kind of condenses his range.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ace highs. The 5 is actually a good card for us as well. It's good for our hand, but we have a lot of more hands that improve on this 5. We have straights, we have 2 pairs that he doesn't have now. So that's why this is a good spot to bet, but it's a good spot to bet small for 2 reasons. First of all, we're betting into a condensed range, a largely condensed range. So our value would want to bet small at a position to try and get value. But secondly, then our cheapish bluffs. This hand, actually has this hand is going to be ahead most of the time. It might look like a weak showdown, weakish draw with only one card to come hand, but actually it's a lot stronger than it looks. Because our pair is usually good and we're drawing to a very, very strong hand. So that's why we're incentivized to put money into the pot in here a lot of the time. After we do check the flop, we get to the river, and we do have a pure check. And he bets and we have a pure call. I mean, just click on the calling range there and see what's the strongest hand we fold. It's a very small size on the river.
Sorry, the folds.
These are where are the folds?
There we go.
The whites are the folds. No,
the greens are the folds.
Greens are the folds. Okay, so we're folding.
We're folding some sixes.
We're folding a few sixes, yeah.
Green six.
But we're not folding any 5-4.
No.
That's really more to do with blocker effects.
Yeah, we blocked the straight. That's
and in game you did identify all the stuff we were blocking. So you're actually better off calling with the weekend, because in both cases with a hand like Queen 6 or 5 or a hand like 5-4, we're beating all the bluffs and we're losing to all the value. He's not value betting a worse hand than that. So so then the question becomes, okay, well, which blocks more of the value and unblocks the bluffs? And that's why 5-4 is a much better call than Queen 6.
Yeah, I would have actually thought Queen 6 was a decent call there because it blocks King Queen, which is a good value hand. But I guess King Queen wouldn't have checked back.
King Queen is probably not even the range because it doesn't check the flop.
Yeah. Okay, right. Let's see if we can get two in a row. Okay, right. This is a dynamic board. We have a good hand. I think our value wants to bet big here. Ooh, right, okay. Well, we're certainly not folding. We'd be very exploitable if we folded. I think there's a case to be made for going all in. So what did he check raise with? He check raised that we beat. He check raises with flush draws. He doesn't have queens, kings, aces. So I think he check raises with 2 pair, flush draws, Queen 10, worse jacks. So do we want to raise, or do we want to let him continue to bet? We've put a lot of, I think we can stack off here. Pocket. Oh, yeah, the set. Yeah, primary. Yeah, there we go. I'm glad I didn't level myself there by saying that we wanted to call so we could keep in his bluffs on the turn.
Yeah. Okay. So why did you only get good here as opposed to excellent?
Because my flop bet, they were. Oh, so they went with a smaller flop bet as the more.
Oh, it's the bigger option. Yeah. I would say again, this is not uncommon. One of the biggest areas of where there's a difference between old school thinking and solver thinking is on these types of boards. Back in the day, people go, "Oh, flush draws, straight draws, we bet big," but that's kind of beside the point. Like a really strong draw is not going to fold to either size here.
No.
So it doesn't. That part of the range is relatively indifferent to whether we bet small or we bet big. Really, it's more sort of the weaker hands, one diamond hands, runner straight hands, that we want to target. And it's not unusual. Put it like this: back in the day, when people saw an unconnected rainbow board, they tended to always bet small. And when they saw this type of board, they tended to bet big. And actually, the solvers kind of do the opposite. They're more likely to use the bigger size on the unconnected, and it's because of what you're targeting to fold and call. Like as I said, like strong draws are just not going to fold here, irrespective of what size we bet. So all we're doing is bloating the pot against that part of the range. And we also make it very easy for his weak hands to just give up now as well. If he just has runner possibilities. So that's why the small bet is the predominant one.
Cool. Right. Can we get through on the bounce? Right. Okay. So he's got all the kings. I've got a pretty good showdown hand. Leading out would be terrible, so let's check. I don't think we can check raise a possible hand. I think this is just going to be a showdown spot. I think 6 is good for us. Is it good enough for us to lead? No, I don't think so, because I think our hand is good enough to get to showdown. That's a terrible card for us. He's supposed to have a lot of aces that bet the flop and check back. So I think, ooh, could we make a block a bit to? Nope. There we go. Any thoughts?
Yeah, okay, so let's go through your actions here. Obviously, it's a no-brainer check out of position. It's a no-brainer call when we face the bet. You can see there is actually a lot of leading
on the turn. Yeah,
on the turn. That's anytime the bottom card or the middle card pair. That's a good spot to lead, because he's going to check back a lot of those hands, and we're going to check call a lot of those hands. So those are particularly good cards for us.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the very first lesson I ever got from the solver. I was really surprised to see in these spots after the flop went check bet call that the solver just kind of leads a really wide range. Now our hand doesn't particularly want to lead, but this is just kind of a range thing. If you check on that, or sorry, if you double click on that to look at just how much leading we do on the turn.
Oh, so wait on.
Yeah, look at that. We're leading. Which one is the bet?
I think I might have.
Yeah, you clicked on the wrong one.
Oh wow, we lead.
Yeah, because this is just us going like, this is a great card for us, and you can see even hands like Ace Jack that kind of look weird as leads. Now Ace benefits from denying equity, which, like, in the exact hand the guy had an ace and he hit it on the river. So that's kind of the main rationale for that. But mostly it's just we're going like, just look at all the 6x in our range. And that's us going like, that's a huge part of our range now. And then we don't have absolutely nothing either, because we check call the flop. So our other hands kind of, even hands like eights and ace jack, they can bet and deny equity. So yeah, this is just a good spot to go ahead and bet on the turn.
Cool. Right.
And then on the river, yeah. And your check is obviously standard. It's just a horrendous card. You typically only do blockers in spots where you have the stronger range and the river is a brick. So he's unlikely to have improved, but he's going to have improved a lot on the ace.
Right, aces. I know they're good. Ooh, okay. So we got aces. We don't benefit as much from big betting. We big bet quite a lot of the time, obviously for value, but we're not worried about any cards higher than us coming up. I actually kind of think this might be a good spot for us. No, any draw. No, I'm gonna bet big, because I think any drawing hand is going to call regardless. So let's get more value. That's a terrible card, really, for us. I mean, actually, no, that card's not bad for us, but that's good for any drawing hand. But we still got a very strong hand. Still beating a lot of one pairs, and so I think we continue to bet. Pretty standard, that one, don't you think, Dara?
Yeah. On the flop, I think you gave very good reasons for betting big. I think one you maybe neglected was that this is actually probably a better bet big hand than a queen, because there are 3 queens missing in action, so he has far more top pair when we have aces than when we have ace queen.
Yeah,
and that's another reason to bet big. We're actually targeting potentially a stronger range, not just the draws, but he also has more top pair. Yeah, and that's
right. So we're 4 on the bounce. Can we make it 5? Ooh, right. Okay. So not necessarily the most favourable. It's an okay board for us. It's an okay board for him. We have an up and down straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. So we're definitely not going anywhere in this hand. I don't think this is a lead out. Question is this a good hand to check raise? No. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm just going to play this face up. Obviously, that's a fantastic card for us. Is this a good enough card for us to lead out with? He's going to have lots of overcards, lots of good one pair hands. We've both got 7-8 in the range, so I don't think this is a brilliant card for me to lead out. And the question is, do I want to get the money in now, or do I want to go for one more street? No, I presume this is going to be one of those spots where DTO says you can do either, because obviously we've got the nuts. Might fold just to make Dara scream. No, we've got bollocks. I was really hoping that we. Okay, I'm gonna end on this one, Dara, because explain to me why we didn't want to milk him for one more street, and why we. I mean, we go all right. Okay, let me answer your question. We go all in there because we want to have very, very strong hands in our all-in range, so that we'll get folds.
Yeah.
With our other hands, so we need to have the nuts in there some of the time. But I would have thought that we also needed to have the nuts in our check call range.
Well, we're out of position. It's going to be hard to get the money in on the river. Like if we go check call, shove river, that's kind of weird. And once we've check called twice, he'll have a lot of kind of weakish showdown hands, which we'll just kind of recognize now. Okay, we're just checking behind now and hoping he has a missed flush draw. So it's going to be hard to get the money in on the river out of position. And this is why being out of position sucks. Like if we were in position, yeah, absolutely, and he's betting into us, we could call here and hope he bluffs off on the river. But he's much less likely to do that in position. It's more likely he either has a draw himself, which won't necessarily put money in on the river unless it hits, or he has, you know, a pair, which when he bets that size on the turn, he's targeting our draws, hoping they'll either fold away their equity or call incorrectly. But if they do call, he can check behind on the river. So he's looking to check behind on the river a lot, I think, and therefore we just want to get the money in now. We also have lots of natural bluffs here now. Our flush draws are devalued because there's only one card to come. So this would just look at how we balance our all in here. What are the bluffs we use? So
we've got 9-6, which is sort of a bluff and sort of. Oh no, it's two pair. My bad. It's a very small.
It's a small value range. It's a small range because it's a small value range. Okay, so hover over Queen 7, which is done sometimes. Yeah, so it's specifically Queen 7 of spades. So we're turning some flush draws and gutter types into bluffs. So we have good natural bluffs here as well. And we have a small amount of value. We have the two pairs, obviously, because we have 9-6 as well, remember. Yeah, so and we have the 8-7, which, as I said, the 8-7 wants to get the money in now because it doesn't want a spade to roll off in the river, and it's going to find it hard to get the money in on the river anyway. So the best way to get the money in against a strong part of his range is just get it in now. And I think the weak part of his range is not going to be super weak. So it's not going to bluff the river all that often. It's just going to take its showdown.
So I enjoyed that, even though I was on complete monkey tilt there. I think it's fair to say that I've internalized some of the concepts from the book very, very well, and I'm enthusiastically misapplying a lot of the other concepts from the book as well. What would you give me, like a B minus there, Dara, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll give you a B minus, and I would say like your EV loss was really low, and there were very few spots where you lost significant EV, and that's probably the most important thing. Like because this is a game and there's a perceived right answer and a perceived wrong answer. You can focus a bit too much on that, but as long as you're not making big mistakes, then that's fine. You won't make big mistakes at the poker table, and you won't lose much EV, and that's much more important than sort of like playing every hand perfectly or building a streak or being high up on the leaderboard.
Not to me.
Yeah, I know, but that's because this is the way the game is set up. So that's kind of the way you take.
I mean, jokes aside, that's actually the beauty of DTO. Unlike any other form of learning, I actually genuinely have an experience that's comparable to the experience I have when I'm playing poker. I am really pleased with myself if I put 10 together in a row. My biggest streak is 21. No, I actually get really frustrated when I just keep messing up hands that I think are, you know, quite straightforward. So in that respect, it really does gamify the thing, and I suppose that is actually massive for learning.
Yeah, agreed. I think we all benefit from that kind of learning. But also I would encourage people to do what we did here, is when you get an answer wrong, rather than just shrug and move on, go and look at the ranges and try and figure out what the reason is.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, you know, if you do use DTO, you definitely have to join the Discord group, because that is where people literally go to share hands. Literally where you can go to ask, like, why the hell do I bet with bottom pair here? And it's a pretty good place to watch if you want to watch Dominic Nietzsche troll a few people. He's a pretty funny guy to follow on there.
Yeah, Dominic's great for that stuff. Yeah, it's interesting to me in passing. I've never noticed this before, but it's not clear to me how this ranking is done. Why is 78%?
I think there's a weighting based on how much volume you've put in. So and recency. I think there's a recency that.
Okay, there's a recency as well. Because if I'm looking at that, like, I think Chris is it Chris?
Yeah, Chris 123
in sixth place is doing extremely well, because he's only losing 0.04.
Yeah.
EV. Now he's only getting the right answer 77% of the time, but I think that's better than getting it right 80%, but losing a significant amount of EV. If I was weighting this, I probably would weight purely to EV loss, and just use the other thing as a tiebreaker. But yeah, it's an interesting one. There's a lot of good players out there. Obviously, those are very low EV loss numbers.
Yeah. So what's my EV loss? 0.09.
That's fine. Like, that's lower than some of the people who are in the top 10. So as I said, like, that's the thing I would mainly focus on. Your EV loss is tiny there. What does that translate to? 9 big blinds per 100, is it? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so you're 9 big blinds. You're losing 9 big blinds per 100 to the best player in the world.
Oh, that's not bad. That sounds quite good.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that is very good.
I'll take that. Yeah. Oh, I thought you just meant I was losing 9 big blinds. That's terrible. I was thinking that.
No, you're losing 9 big blinds per 100, playing against somebody who's playing absolutely perfectly. So.
All right. So if it was me against Linus, and someone gave me a 12 big blind head start, I'd win. Yeah. Right. You know where to find me.
You're calling out Linus now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm ready. I think getting 5 right out of 10 is in that video has made me ready to call out the best. Oh, I'm actually
providing they're all obviously low jack versus big blind single raise spots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's not deviate from that. I've got a very, very narrow criteria for my head challenge.
Yeah, and he's only allowed to use the sizing that he's allowed to. You don't have to try and figure out on the fly what happens if he 1.5x pots the flop.
Yeah. Oh, that was fun. Any parting words about DTO or the book or anything like that? Dara?
Yeah, no, I think DTO is great. As I said, like, there should be 2 prongs to your how to get better at poker: studying and training, and DTO is the ultimate training tool. But it also has a useful study function, in the sense, if you use it properly, if after you make an error, you go back and you look at the ranges and figure out why that was an error, then that's something you can apply going forward.
Excellent. Well, once again, if you like this video, please subscribe. We're going to do this for a few more months, but if there isn't that much interest in it, we might call it a day. So, holding you to ransom again, please. If you want more of these videos, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Dara.
Thank you, Barry. Well played.